accept the minutes and as published.
All right. Anybody else have any problems? Okay.
Mr. Scheid, second.
And we'll do that by general consensus. Thank you very much. Okay, we've gotten all that out of the way. We have two public hearings tonight, PC 25-9 and PUD 541 Mod 1125. So, just to let you know how we do our public hearings, we have a presentation first by the applicant. Then we have a staff presentation. At that point, we'll open the floor to any public comments in favor of, against, or simply asking questions. Once we've gone through that, I'll see if Melissa has any written input on the subject. Then we'll close the public hearing and we will discuss amongst ourselves and hopefully come up with a vote. So without further ado, have at it.
This is case number PC 25-9, conditional use on an application filed by Beavercreek Lodging, LLC, 1537 Burberry Lane, Schaumburg, Illinois, 60173. The applicant requests conditional use approval to allow for an apartment hotel to be operated out of an existing building located at 3845 Germany Lane. The property is further described as Book 1, page 9, parcel 63 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Thank you. I presume there is someone here representing the applicant. Crickets. Okay. If there's no one here, we'll go with our staff report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. It's the case you remember this thing. Okay, the case you have before you is PC 25-9, the Birch Hill Hotel conditional use approval. The applicant's requesting approval of a conditional use to continue to occupy an existing hotel that's at 3845 Germany Lane, to continue to occupy the hotel as an apartment hotel, which they've been running as, which was not as approved when it was approved in 2004. It wasn't approved as an apartment hotel, which is a separate use than just a general motel. The property is located in northern Beavercreek. It's north of 675. It's south of Colonel Glenn Highway. I've marked it here on the map with the green star, so you can see it's way up to the northern end of the city. As you get zoomed in, this is the aerial view of the hotel. You can see it occupies a majority of the site. To the north is a construction company north of Germany Lane. To the south is some parking lot for the professional office building, which is to the west, and then 675 exit ramp. To the west is that professional office building and a large parking lot associated with that office building. And then to the east is actually outside of the city. It's an unincorporated island of the township, and it's being operated as a storage, a personal storage facility.
Is that why it's in blue? It's in unincorporated?
Yes, yeah, that's why it's kind of whited out a little bit and surrounded by the blue. That's actually the city boundary. This, in 2004, when it was approved as a hotel, there was a site plan associated with that, and this is a copy of that site plan. It's included in your packet. It's a three-story 102-room hotel. Sorry about that. They have 106 off-street parking spaces dedicated within the site, and the site, as I stated before, it's mostly developed. 82% of the site is impervious surface, so that includes the sidewalks and the parking lot and the building itself. Typically, with our current zoning code, we set the max in those zoning districts as 75%, so they're even above that in terms of expandable area. It is zone B3, as is the properties to the south. Properties to the north are B2, and then there's a CPUD to the west. Apartment hotels are allowed as a conditional use in B2, in B3, but again, in order to operate that, they have to get approval from the Planning Commission to operate as an apartment hotel. Just a little bit of history of the approval process for this site. In 2001, they came forward to the Board of Zoning Appeals Back before 2009, the Board of Zoning Appeals actually heard all conditional use cases, but when we updated the zoning code in 2009, we switched it over to Planning Commission, given that a lot of what Planning Commission sees in other cases are similar to what you would look at in a conditional use, similar but not the same. So we felt in 2009 it was best to have the Planning Commission review conditional use cases rather than the BZA. So in 2001, the BZA approved it as a motel, but their applications and all the material associated with the application and even the staff report referred to as an extended stay hotel. But the resolution that approved it in 2001 clearly stated motel. They didn't construct it within 3 years, and so at the time, if you didn't start construction within 3 years, then that approval expired. It's down to 2 years now. And so they had to come back in 2004 to get it approved again. And at the time, the staff used the 2001 staff report and just said everything in it is substantially the same. And again, the updated resolution again said motel, not extended stay, but all the application, the materials, and even the staff report in 2004 stated that they were looking to get a extended stay hotel. So staff is a little unclear as to what if they were approved as a motel or an extended stay hotel. But what we are clear is they weren't approved as an apartment hotel. In October of this year, the state fire marshal did their general fire inspection, and the city went along with the state fire marshal just to learn more about the process in the fire inspection, as well as just see if there were any code enforcement actions or code enforcement violations. We received a copy of that fire inspection, and one of the items that was attached to the fire inspection and that we received was a roster of all the guests. And in your packet, I included that roster. I took out all the names of the people, but I did include that roster. And there were several people that were guests of the hotel that were well in excess or in excess of 182 days. In our hotel and motel regulations, in our code of ordinances, is anything more than 51% of the year staying at the hotel would be considered a permanent residence. And in our zoning code, an apartment hotel is defined as a hotel or a building with dwelling units, which is a place for permanent residence. So that's how we came to the conclusion that they are actually operating as an apartment hotel, not as a motel or an extended stay, because they have guests there that are there for more than 51% of the calendar year. Initially, we notified them that they were running an extended stay hotel without approval, but then, as I stated earlier, it's kind of unclear if they were approved as an extended stay or a motel. So we amended that code enforcement violation to state that they were running a apartment hotel without approval of Planning Commission, and told them that they need to either get approval of a conditional use or have the people that's been there for 182 days or longer vacate the property, and guests moving forward can't stay there for more than 182 days. When looking at conditional use approvals in general, Planning Commission should make by resolution the following findings in deciding on conditional use, and that includes that it's located in a district where you can have that as a conditional use, where that conditional use will not have substantial or material detrimental effect on the surrounding properties and have negative impacts or conflict with the surrounding properties, and also take into consideration the vehicular traffic volumes and any increase in volumes and how that would have an effect to the neighbors. Just a little bit of history. In the summer of this year, we were looking to start a program to require all hotels to have licenses to operate within the city. And as part of that initial investigation, we looked at police reports for all hotels within the city. And we came to the conclusion that Birch Hill has significantly much more calls for dispatch and reported crimes than all the other hotels in the city. And we're making the argument that it does not meet the standards of 158, 171B, or C4B. In the staff report, I accidentally said 172, or I'm sorry, 72 C4B. It should be 158, 171 C4B. I just want to clarify that about the substantial material detrimental effect on the surrounding properties. So looking at the police reports and all the police numbers, the dispatch numbers, between January of 2022 and July of 2025, of all the police dispatch calls that went to all the hotels in the city, and there are 9 of them, 45% of those went to Birch Hill. And so that's a rate of 6.5 times more than the average of all the other hotels. There's kind of, in looking in the staff report, my chart, this is the chart that you see, except in the top where it says January of 2022, in the staff report it accidentally says 2023, so I wanted to make that point that should say 23 and not 22. But also the text references a higher number because the text includes when the police went out, they initiated the call rather than dispatch. So I just wanted to point out that why the chart says one thing and the text says another. It's because I was referring to 2 different things, and I see now how that would be confusing, so I wanted to point that out.
Excuse me for commenting, so dispatch is just 911, or could it be
It's,
any?
it's when our dispatch is called either by 911 or it could be the non-emergency line, but it's when somebody makes a phone call to and requests police assistance. The larger number that had like over 1,000 rather than the 965, that included a couple hundred that were police initiated, where they just doing general patrol and initiated something that they saw something, so they initiated the stop. Also, if you look at an annual rate over I just did the full years of 22, 23, and 24. Extended stay, Birch Hill had an average of 131. It is decreasing since 22, but still on average over the 3 years, 131 calls. Whereas the rest of them combined had significantly less, and many of them had 4 to 10 times fewer number of calls in that time period as Birch Hotel. And same thing with serious crimes, and they're higher at Birch Hill than they are the other hotels. Of the 965 that I listed in the chart, 147 are classified as severe, and the way we classify that is the list I've got there, where it's assault and breaking, entering, burglary, endangerment, dead body, domestic, those reasons listed on the staff in the staff report and on this slide. And over the course of the 3+ years between January 23 and July 25, Birch Hill had 84 severe incidences, and the other 8 combined had 59. So it was a significant higher of severe incidences at Birch Hill as well. And another reason that we're looking at it and why it doesn't meet the standards is the limitations. When they were approved in 2004 as a motel or possibly an extended stay hotel, the parking standards for that is 1 space for every room plus 1 for every 20 rooms. Whereas for an apartment hotel, it's 2 spaces for every 3 rooms, or 3 spaces for every 2 rooms. It's a much higher rate of parking. So based on just the pure math, they are 47 parking spaces short of what they would need if they were running an apartment hotel. And given that their site is 82% impervious, there's not enough room to increase the number of parking spaces to get to 47 or get anywhere close to 47 additional spaces. So planning staff, after reviewing the application and the police reports and the zoning code, we're recommending disapproval of the applicant's request, given that it currently has substantial detrimental effect with the higher crime rates compared to their peer hotels, and the fact that they can't meet the code, the minimum parking standards within the code. So again, staff is recommending disapproval. one of the things in the notice, and we included a letter, that November letter, that they would have to have people vacate who were there for 182 days. And knowing that some of the residents, I mean, they've been there for a couple of years, and 6 of the residents there have the hotel listed as their permanent residence with the Ohio BMV. That's where their car is registered. Knowing that it's not easy to just pick up, we planning on extending this time a little bit and trying not to, typically we would give somebody 30 days to meet the standards, and we don't want to have somebody have to move out by Christmas Eve. So we were planning on extending that through the end of January if Planning Commission decides to disapprove the applicant's request for a conditional use approval.
And that is not something that we have to include in any plus or minus?
No, that would be just administrative action by the department should this move forward as a disapproval. In your packet, I've included both a resolution for disapproval as well as if Planning Commission decides to approve the applicant's request, there is a resolution for approval. And just want to remind everybody that being a conditional use approval and Planning Commission being a quasi-judicial board in these type of cases, to really state why you're making the recommendation or vote that you're making, and really articulate that, because it needs to be on the record as to why you're making the decision that you're making. So again, staff has recommended this approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you for a nice, complete report. At this point, we'll open the floor, since this is a public hearing. If you would like to come up and state your piece, if you would, limit yourself to 3 minutes. And if you have questions for or against, have at it. Please come forward, state your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Stuart Smith. I'm the vice president of the self-storage facility right next door. And I think they pretty much teed it up, but we just wanted to let you guys know that there's constant police activity on our site, looking over at the hotel and monitoring what they're doing. They have set up for drug raids on our property to go in there. There's constant loitering in the back parking lot. Tenants are uncomfortable because people are using drugs in the parking lot. And they're already using it as an extended stay. So I think it needs to end as soon as possible. And just want to make our points heard, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Hearing a lot of silence out there. One more chance before I close the public hearing. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Did we have any written input?
We did receive one email.
Thank you.
It was in opposition of the conditional use request, and planning commissioners did receive a copy of it.
Thank you very much. Okay, now that the public hearing is closed, I will start with Jim on my left.
Actually,
Okay.
before we begin, I just wanted to cover a little. Normally, you guys sit either as a legislative or administrative, making those type of decisions. Legislative is when you change zoning. Administrative is when you look at like an administrative site plan review. The BZA sits as a quasi-judicial board all the time. You guys rarely do. This is the one exception to that where you're doing a conditional use. So when you sit as a quasi-judicial board, you need to think of yourselves as a judge in a bench trial. So you're making findings of fact and you're making the ultimate decision. Randy talked a little bit about this, but that's why you need to make findings on the record based upon the evidence that's been submitted. So the staff report that's been submitted, the application that was submitted, as well as the testimony that was given today. And then Randy's done a great job putting forward the administrative code or the zoning code provisions that they need to meet all 3 of those provisions in order to get the conditional use, and they have the burden of proof of proving that they've met all of those conditions. I do have to say though, I always take issue, I always tell you guys about traffic. I know it says traffic is in there. You can't make zoning decisions based upon traffic. I don't think there's any allegation that there is a traffic issue here anyway. It's mostly focused. I think the city's position is that they don't meet criteria B. I don't think there's a, Randy can correct me if I'm wrong, A and C are not an issue. It's the B, and they have to meet all 3.
Yes, that is correct. Our reasoning is that it's B only. And also, and Josh alluded to this fact that questions that come from the planning commission should be related to the evidence and not questions outside of what the evidence shows or what you're going to make your decision based on. So something that's irrelevant shouldn't be discussed upon by this committee. So.
Thank you. This is something we as a planning commission don't do very often. In fact, I think the last conditional use we heard was the medical marijuana facility, and that was several years ago. Okay, Jim, have at it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Randy, come back up. I'm going to verify my facts based on the comprehensive report that you gave and that you sent us. And just to verify, I've got 7 or 8 items.
Okay.
Going back to what our attorney asked us to verify, I want to make sure I've heard them right. I scared them away already. Just started. Okay.
I think I'd memorized the report, but I want to have it
Yeah,
just in case.
so I'm not going to go into the little subtitle on one of the slides. Can you go back to the site plan, the aerial view? I'm going to reference that more than once. And thank you. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that's good too. So fine. So I just want to make sure of the fact that conditional use approval, which is what we're talking about tonight for this applicant, means that they have not been operating that way already, and in effect, the conditional approval would allow them to operate that way already. So is that true, that a true conditional approval means that they are supposedly not have been operating that way?
From a technical standpoint,
From a
if you were
technical
following the code, you would not operate until you got your conditional use
And
approval.
yet, if I understood the summary right from the approval, then it expired in 2001, and then the new approval in 2004 by the BZA, and then the construction in 2006. We don't know when they started operating with the people, the 85 people that you found of 106 rooms that were extended past the 182-day limit. We don't know when that could have started, but clearly they've been operating in this conditional use without this approval for a certain period of time. Would that be true?
Yes, I mean, anyone who's stayed past 182 days, if you look back and they've got 1,500 days, then they at least started operating that way 1,300 days ago or whatever.
Whatever it
that
was.
number minus 182 is. So it's been a
Okay.
while.
Next verification item, so based upon our zoning code, whether at the time it was constructed in 2006 or our current zoning code, they are more than previously taken over the site. I think you said of the 85% or 85.3% of the site. So they were already in non-compliance of whatever approval they could get, simply because the building and the paving have overseen the amount that we limit, which is 75%, I believe.
That's the amount that we limit now. I'm not sure what it was in 2004. It might have been more. I don't have that.
Was it?
But-
So when it was constructed in 2006, it might have been a higher.
It could have been 90%, but
Okay.
my point for showing that number is now because they are technically grandfathered, allowing themselves to operate at the 82%, they don't have room to expand their impervious surface any under the current zoning code.
Okay, thank you. Next item, going back to the number of people from the fire marshal's survey in October, where of the, I believe, 85 residents of the 106 rooms, and a significant percentage of them were in excess of the 182 days. I'm assuming that that is a validation that at that moment of the fire marshal's inspection, they were clearly in non-compliance with the 182-day limit.
The 182-day limit is ours with the hotel motel. So what we're saying is anything more than 51% of a calendar year, that's their permanent resident. So
Well, that's why I wanted to verify this fact, because if they have not yet gotten approval as an apartment hotel, are they still held to the 182-day limit for residents or less?
if they're not allowed to have people there for more than 182 days unless they get conditional use approval for an apartment hotel.
Okay.
From a zoning perspective, the fire marshal, that's a whole different, we're not looking at it from the fire marshal's perspective, we're looking at it from the zoning perspective.
Okay. And then that would then impact their parking, which the clearly pointed out the 47 space deficit. Again, whether they had the approval or not, to be short of the 47 spaces is, they're just short.
Yeah.
There's no way with whether hotel, extended stay, apartment hotel, whatever, they're still gonna be 47 spaces short.
Yes, I mean, if you're doing a full math, even if they said only 20 rooms of the hotel were apartment hotel and everything else is traditional hotel, they'd still be short because it'd just be a mathematical number how short they are, but at the maximum, they're 47 spaces short right
Okay.
now.
And then the last verification, in fact, when you were talking about the police reports and what we found compared to the other 8 hotels that exist in Beavercreek, and looking at the disproportionate share of dispatches that occur, the trend is current. We had mentioned in the information through July of 2025, so just a few months ago. I'm assuming that that is something that the police have maintained for whatever it was going to be classified as, whether it was apartment hotel, a motel. It's still in that category with the other 8 properties of being a disproportionate share. And it's
Yeah,
not
I mean, but-
something that exists solely because of where it is, contiguous, surrounded by all the other surrounding properties. It's that kind of a property, and it's disproportionate for that kind of property.
Yes, we just had them look, we just said, hey, could you get us the calls for service for everything that's been operating as a hotel or hotel-like property over the
Okay.
last.
So, Mr. Chairman, to me, I'm finding that they have been operating in a particular way in non-compliance for an extended period of time, undefined. They have non-compliance already in the parking area, in the number of people that are extended and made it their permanent residence over the 182 days. They have a disproportionate impact because of the police dispatch calls. I'm already seeing multiple areas of non-compliance that I just wanted to verify. And that would be my series of questions for tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jonathan?
The number of service calls, does that include fire, or is that just police?
I just looked at police, fire, I got their data as well, and they kind of combined it. It was just harder to disseminate, but
But
this is police only.
Okay. But there's a potential that there's even a higher burden on services.
On,
public services.
yes, I mean,
Okay.
fire was there for different reasons, and EMS was there for different reasons. I just wanted to go with what I could easily disseminate and represent.
Okay. So normally we hear like conditional use applications when a property is not in use, or right. So does anything change because they're already operating in them?
So the answer is no. You're making a decision about future use. Their prior use may result in a zoning code violation being issued. That would go to the BZA if they were to appeal that. You're only looking at, can they operate as an apartment hotel moving forward?
Okay, I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Ms. Laura?
So if we were to not approve the apartment hotel, but as an extended stay hotel, does that take care of the issue of the ambiguity of it being a motel versus an extended stay hotel? Would they now be designated as an extended stay hotel, like legally or under the zoning code?
No, our extended stay hotel it doesn't have a defined number of days, so we default back to anything over 182 days is a permanent residence.
Okay.
And that, if it has a permanent residence, it has a dwelling unit, and if it has a dwelling unit and an apartment, then it's an apartment hotel. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make a difference if it was approved as a extended stay or a traditional hotel.
Okay. And then in terms of the parking and condition B approval standards, so parking spaces would not be considered part of the traffic that we had to take in consideration of whether or not they meet all the standards.
I mean, you could make that leap there some, I guess, if, as part of the standards, it said, let me get back to it, where it talks about taking into account vehicular turning movements in relation to, where did I find it? The vehicular traffic to and from the conditional use can be accommodated by the existing. So really, I think it's focusing on B, because they have to meet all three standards. They can't, just meeting two isn't enough. That B is where we focused on. I was just showing additional evidence that they can't meet the minimum standards in the zoning code with the apartment hotel, even if it were approved.
And I think the amount of parking available goes to number B, because if there's not enough parking there, where are those people parking when they're not having enough room there? So does that have a substantial or material detrimental effect on the surrounding properties if people from the hotel are parking on their property instead of where they're supposed to park?
Okay.
Also, I wanted to add something additional that I didn't in my presentation. I noticed that the applicant, there was nobody here to represent the applicant, and I wanted to point out that they did get a certified mail stating that the public hearing would be tonight. We mailed it on the 18th of November, and they did receive it. So I just want to point out that they did receive notice of this hearing. So I didn't want any claims that they didn't know about it.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I was the only one involved with this back in 2001 when this was originally approved, although I was on Planning Commission and not on the BZA. But I seem to recall that this was referred to as a motel when the approval first came in. My question is, did we have in our zoning code in 2001 and again in 2004, did we have a separate category for extended stay as separate from motel?
No, and actually our table of permitted uses does not have extended stay hotels listed on them currently.
Okay, so, but in 2004, when this was approved by the BZA as conditional use, it was approved for a quote motel unquote.
Correct.
Okay, and according to our current zoning code, it is not complying with the requirements for a motel. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. If we were to approve this conditionally as an apartment hotel, there's no way that they can meet the parking requirements. And that usually is, if we were looking at this as a rezoning, and someone came to us with a plan that did not meet the zoning requirements for parking or for height or for anything else, that would be a valid reason to turn down the rezoning or the specific site plan. Am I right on that?
It would be a reason for us to recommend disapproval. And
Correct.
for you guys to take it as you may.
So essentially, we have the same situation here. We have a facility that is non-complying with what they were originally zoned for, and there's no way that they can be complying with what they are asking for as a conditional use. Am I right on that?
And with their current plans, no. I mean, they could build a parking garage, but
Right.
they
but
didn't, they
what-
didn't, they
what
didn't
they have
mention
a-
anything about
right,
building a
what they
parking
have
garage.
applied for is essentially no change to the facility, to the physical structure.
They asked to maintain the existing site and run it as what they've been doing.
Okay. So, seems to me that we don't really have a choice here, folks, at least from my standpoint. So, second helpings. Additional questions. Jim, you're writing furiously,
Yeah,
so I know
just
you've
have
got another
just
question.
a really small one. We were, one of the residents were kind enough, Ms. Smith, to give us the email, and she fortunately copied another Smith, Mr. Alex Smith, on the email, but we had a Mr. Stuart Smith publicly participate. Is Stuart Smith still another Smith?
My middle name's Alex.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to verify where you fit in the email that we got, so that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Other second helpings? More questions? Okay. Then what I need gentleman and lady, is a motion. We have a choice of two here, so I need a motion and I need a second.
And when you do make the motion, I'd say, if you're saying to disapprove, state the specific reason why you're disapproving. And if you're approving, state that they've met all three of those criteria by a preponderance of the evidence.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny the application for conditional use as an apartment hotel as submitted by the applicant for non-compliance with Beavercreek zoning code 158.171, part C, part B. C4B, C4B, parenthesis, parenthesis, parenthesis. Okay.
There'll be a quiz on this later. Okay, I have a motion.
I think with what the findings, what Mr. Self said already, that he didn't believe that they met the requirements because there was not enough parking. As long as you are all in agreement with that particular finding, I think that that's sufficient. Yes.
Wasn't saying C4B sufficient enough?
But you have to base it upon the facts. So you said they didn't meet those requirements, but you didn't say why you didn't believe they met those requirements. And I've heard people articulate that, but it would be
Well, I will then articulate because of noncompliance with Beavercreek zoning code 158.171 C4B as evidenced by noncompliance with inadequate parking, noncompliance with coverage of the lot area in, what's the word? Land that cannot be developed. I can't remember the terminology for coverage between the building and the parking lot. Non-compliance and extended stays of residents as permanent residents, and the
so.
high.
That last part, the fact that they've not been compliant is not. It's whether that they'll have a detrimental effect on the surrounding properties. That's the B. So that the parking would cover it, but I would not talk about the.
And I'll stop there at the parking. I was trying to include the site coverage, the 85%, but I can't remember the word that's used for site coverage. Impervious, thank you. Okay, period.
And anything about the crime too, the increased crime rate. But
And the disproportional increase of police dispatches and as well as severe police dispatches to this site as compared to its other 8 counterpart Beavercreek hotels in the city.
I think that meets the requirements for showing they didn't meet the subsection B and why they didn't meet it. You guys have found facts, so if you're going to vote in favor of the disapproval, it would be based upon those findings.
I still need a second.
And to be clear, it's a motion to approve a resolution that did not. It's a motion to.
it's a motion to approve the resolution of disapproval.
I made a motion to deny the application for conditional approval as an apartment hotel. Right, Melissa, read back. I made a motion to deny approval of the conditional.
But we have to approve a motion denying the conditional use.
There's a resolution
You
that
have to do that.
specifically says denial. This is just nuanced words, but
Made a motion to deny the approval of the conditional approval as an apartment hotel. Did I say it wrong?
As set forth in the which resolution?
Resolution for deny.
Resolution A. Sure, that works. And so if you say this is where it gets confusing for the.
a resolution, proposal, recommendation to deny is a de facto approval of the denial resolution.
So this makes it confusing for voting. So when you vote, rather than say aye or nay, the motion is to deny pursuant to the resolution A. I would say I agree with the denial or something along those lines, or I don't agree with the denial, because otherwise, this is a Robert's Rule thing. Even when you're trying to deny something, you're supposed to make a motion in the
The applicant
affirmative.
made an application for conditional approval. I'm denying the application. I make a motion to deny the application for conditional approval.
And I think we're fine. with the way you've done it. I just want the vote to be clear. I had this issue at the BZA meeting previously where they disapproved something, and people weren't sure if they were voting yes was disapproval or no was disapproval. So when you're voting for this, just make it clear on the record whether you're saying that their application for conditional use should be denied, or whether you believe it should be approved when you're voting.
You want to read back before we get a second? Read back what you wrote for me? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would second that.
We have a motion and a second, and you can see we don't do this very often. And we ran into exactly the same situation with the medical marijuana facility. It's something we don't do on a very regular basis, and there are very specific rules for a conditional use, and we want to make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. So, without further ado, read the roll.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes to disapprove.
Ms. Palumbo,
I agree to disapprove the conditional use.
Mr. Fountain,
I agree to approve the denial of the conditional application.
Always got to be one.
Mr. Self,
I'm glad I'm going last. I agree to disapprove. And it is denied 4-0. And we will move on to our second public hearing tonight, which is McDonald's.
this is case number PUD 541 mod 11 of 25. It's a major modification on an application filed by Vanessa Stickle, 3595 Albrecht Avenue, Akron, Ohio 44312. The applicant requests a major modification to allow for the construction of a 4,192 square foot restaurant on 0.9 acres. The property is located at 4380 Indian Ripple Road, further described as Book 3, page 7, parcel 174 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Thank you. And we are on much firmer ground now. We've done these before.
Okay. Do I need to state my name and address? It's Vanessa Stickle, 3595 Albrecht Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44312. And tonight I also have Colin with me. He's with McDonald's if he wants to.
Colin Wisniewski, construction manager with McDonald's Corporation, 3494 Tullamore Road.
So here tonight, we're here to present the proposed McDonald's restaurant at Green Crossing, located at 4380 Indian Ripple Road. Just some quick information about McDonald's. I'm sure you're all familiar with the brand, but, they're a global leader in the quick service restaurant industry with locations worldwide. Each restaurant represents a long-term investment in a local community, providing jobs, supporting the local tax base, and serving as a consistent, familiar neighborhood business. Over the last several years, they've been focused on updating a prototype that's more modernized. It focuses on quality, safety, operational efficiency, and a more contemporary architectural experience that fits well within today's retail corridors. So what we're proposing to do is to demolish the existing Burger King that's on the site. So the building itself will come down, and then the majority of the site itself will be reused. And then it'll be reconstructed as a new McDonald's restaurant with updated architecture, circulation, and site improvements. And then here I'm kind of depicting like each elevation and how it relates to the building, so you can see how it orients. The building itself is approximately 4,000 square feet, and it does follow McDonald's current prototype with some modifications to adhere to the PUD requirements. And the intent here is to provide a modern, efficient restaurant that fits well within the existing Green Crossing Center. So as you can see on the site plan, I've oriented the building. So the front elevation that's labeled there in the rendering view, and that portion of the building actually faces the entrance to the shopping center, so it comes into the private drive. So if you come in the private drive and look to the right, you'll see the front elevation of the building. The non-drive-through elevation is the part of the elevation that you're going to see along Indian Ripple Road. So as you're driving up and down Indian Ripple, that's the part that you'll see Both the front and non-drive-through side elevations have the McDonald's have the McDonald's arch logo sign, and then the non-drive-through elevation also has the McDonald's wordmark sign. And then on the drive-through side elevation, that actually faces interior to the shopping center itself. And then there's no proposed signage on those elevations. And then the rear elevation, that kind of faces adjacent to the fuel station that's next door in the shopping center. And then down on the bottom, I've just shown a depiction of the trash enclosure. And the trash enclosure front of that building will actually be oriented more towards McDonald's building. And it'll have some screening around it. So as you're driving along Indian Ripple, you won't be looking directly at the front of that trash enclosure, and the side of it will be screened. And then I do just want to acknowledge that McDonald's accepts all the conditions of approval in the PUD 541 modification resolution. And we've already looked at some of the conditions that were addressed, specifically 8, 18, 19, and 20. And I just kind of updated the rendering to show for some of those items. One of them specifically stated the roof line the parapet has to be 3 feet above the roof line. So we're just showing here that the parapet extends 6 foot 6 inches above the roof line. So you can kind of see the mechanical equipment, everything is screened, so there's no visibility to any of the equipment that's on the roof. The McDonald's wordmark sign, we updated that to show the individually mounted letters. And then there was one question in there about the material on the trash enclosure gate. And so we're just calling out that the gate material was added in the specifications, and that's pressure treated wood. And then there's been some conversations with staff just about the drainage and downspout detail. I included that in here. McDonald's building roof drains through internal roof drains that tie into the underground storage system, so there's no scuppers or exterior downspouts on the main roof. You know, that was important, so I wanted to make sure we highlight on that. And then lastly, I'd really like to just thank you for your time and consideration this evening. We believe this project is compliant reinvestment with an existing pad that aligns with Green Crossing and your conditions of approval, and we respectfully request your support. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. We may have a few questions later.
Okay.
Staff?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Colin Carville. I'm the city planner. We are here this evening for a major modification request to PUD 541, and they are proposing a new McDonald's location. That McDonald's location is 4,192 square feet. It's going into an existing, or they're going to be taking down an existing Burger King that is now vacated. It's located at 0.895 acres at 4380 Indian Ripple Road. And just to get our bearings here, so the kind of northeast star on this map is where we're at this evening, and the southwestern star on the map is where that new McDonald's location is going, just directly north of the green mixed-use development. And here's just an outline look of that lot and where it sits within that PUD 541. As I already stated, the previous Burger King location was 4,245 square feet, so very similar layout of this new McDonald's location that's going in. They're out of business, and the existing parking area as well. As I mentioned, that building will be demolished, and the request, a restaurant request, is compliant with the CPUD B541 PUD itself. Just some elements within that PUD. There's a BP gas station to the east. To the north, there is the new On Par, as well as Sake. And then to the west is a Waffle House. And then, as I already mentioned, directly to the south is the green development. And I believe the Waffle House I said was to the south. It's actually to the west. So here's a first look at the site plan of the new development. Like you said, pretty standard. Staff didn't have any concerns with stacking at this location. as it was previously served for that Burger King, and didn't have any noted issues in the past there. The building design, like I mentioned, 4,192 single-story restaurant. It's approximately 90 feet long by 40 feet wide, roughly 22.75 square feet to the top, and then uses materials that staff is happy with, complementing brick, ephes, all that to kind of match surrounding development and kind of what we look for in Beavercreek new developments and redevelopments. And I like their slide so much I took it myself. So that is just another look at the elevations, just at each different side, kind of what you'll look at. But the applicant did a great job explaining how that site will look when you're kind of entering the PUD and development. Some things that weren't touched on. So when we look at parking for specifically our restaurants, we kind of look at the customer area that's going to be utilized. So breaking down that 4,000 plus square foot building, we kind of determined that there's 1,036 square feet of customer area. So using our parking code, or zoning code for the parking requirement, it's the standard 1 space per 100 square feet of customer area, plus 1 space for each employee on the largest shift. So that would kind of break down. We would round up to 11 spaces to service that customer area. And then I believe they're anticipating 10 employees on their largest shift. So that brings that minimum requirement to 21 spaces. They are providing 31 spaces, which exceeds the requirement. That 31 number includes the 3 ADA spaces proposed. And just unique to McDonald's, I know they have a lot of designated spaces for online orders or overflow. That's accounted into the 31. So those additional spaces are included in that 31. So you're not seeing a higher number of spaces provided. And here's just a look at the landscape plan. Just a lot of landscaping kind of around the perimeter, as well as some enhanced landscaping to the southeast, where their monument sign will be, as well as shielding kind of that garbage entrance spot as well. So staff is happy with what is being proposed for the landscape plan in this case. And finally, just signage. The total wall signage is approximately 44.75 square feet, so that's under a lot of what we see in PUD proposals, so we're happy with that. And then kind of the monument sign is a little higher than what we typically approve, but there was that new Raising Cane's to a couple slots down to the west. Their sign was approved at 6 feet 3 inches. What they're proposing would be 6.5 feet. So ultimately, staff was fine with what was being proposed, and a lot of that's kind of tied to the base as well. So other than that, staff is recommending approval of their application, subject to the 20 conditions. Obviously, they're doing their best to try and meet what we're outlining, so we're pleased with that. But definitely want to hold them to those 20 conditions in the resolution that you have before you. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Usual excellent comprehensive report. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against or ask questions. Boy, it's really quiet in here. Last chance. Okay. I'll close the public hearing and ask if we had any written input. We did not. Okay. I'm going to start with Jonathan this time, work my way down the list.
Questions for staff? So I believe if I heard the applicant correctly, she said on the dumpster they were going to use, or the gate, they were going to use pressure treated wood.
Yes.
Is that, because condition 8 says constructed of vinyl composite material or other material.
Yeah,
that
we would be okay with that.
Okay, all right. So one thing I thought about was like window signage. A lot of like fast food restaurants put like big signs in
Sure.
the windows, and I know like I don't think we've approved fast food in a while, but like gas stations we've approved recently, we put a limitation on how much signage or the windows or window the signage could cover. Is that something?
Sure. So that's something that we don't actually permit for or pull permits for. They're not allowed to go over 50% of a window. So that's kind of the standard that we hold them to. Obviously, it's excessive. If it's excessive, we'll cite them for it. But our code's pretty protective of that and pretty enforceable. So
Okay, so that doesn't need to be conditioned because I know we've conditioned that before.
sure, sir. I think with the familiarity with McDonald's too, I think that helps. So staff's comfortable with kind of not having a condition on there.
Okay. Let's see. So this might be better for the applicant, but
Sure.
What is that like room or whatever next to the dumpster?
Yeah.
It's actually a storage shed, so that they use to put like decorations from like holiday, Easter, or any like community promotional events. Just an extra area for them to store items that don't necessarily fit within the footprint of the restaurant.
Do you know approximately how tall that is? It just looks big in the renderings.
I think it matches the height of our wall for our trash corral. I believe it's, we have that elevation.
It was above though.
Should be close.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
taller. So see, it just looks tall. So I just didn't know if you had like
Yeah,
height
let
on
me,
that. Yeah.
I'll have to follow up on that, I think, unless she's got that.
I can't read that small.
9 feet 4 inches, top elevation.
Okay. Okay. And then while I had you here, what's the use of the second pickup window?
Sorry, which one?
The second pickup window. It's notated. It's the one to the
Yeah,
left.
so your first window towards the back of the building, that'll be your pay booth, so where customers pay for their food, and then the second window is the present window where we serve the food. And then if somebody's, burger or drink is taking longer, they have that third window to pull forward,
Okay.
so that the customer behind them can grab their food. And then there's that bypass lane that customer can then go around the waiting customer.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. And then the last one I had for you guys was there's like 3 service doors on the street side of the building. Is there any way to reduce the number of service doors?
Well, so the service door closest to, so I guess to the left, that's our stockroom door, so that's where all of our dry stock comes in through. The door in the middle, that's actually our CO2 closet.
Okay.
So it's not, during when we're filling CO2, that's the only time that'll be open. And then the last door, that's our freezer cooler, so all of our food products go in through that door. So probably not a way to reduce that unless we brought the CO2 somewhere else.
Okay. Just if anything we could do to screen that from the street would be nice, just so you don't see door.
Okay.
But okay. That's all I had for you guys. Thank you.
Miss Laura?
Ms. Dickel, if you don't mind coming back up. I have just a quick question for you. Since McDonald's is such a popular restaurant, are there any guidelines about competition in the area, meaning there's not an oversaturation of McDonald's within a certain square mileage, just so there's no competition from a similar restaurant?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
So, in terms of we're building a new McDonald's, it's a pretty popular restaurant. Are there any guidelines about how many McDonald's can be built within a so many square miles, or to eliminate that one new restaurant isn't just taking customers away from the same restaurant?
Yeah, no, of
Fine.
course. So we do an extensive research when we're, driving the trade area to determine where our newest locations will be. So that's obviously impact to our existing restaurant portfolio is something that we are not, we would not consider putting another one right down the street from this one, obviously. So this location was thoroughly analyzed internally through McDonald's that we would not, cannibalize our neighboring McDonald's as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
To both of you first, before I get to Randy and Colin. Vanessa, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name, and I'd rather...
Oh, yes, it's Stickle.
Stickle. Okay, Ms. Stickle, have you, can you put up the favorite one that you like that she did, which is larger? Steve, I'm going to walk up to the screen to point to something. I have a stacking question, and it relates to the one that we already have on North Fairfield and 675 near Lowe's, which is similar to this site. There we go, that one right there, right there. So, hold on, Steve, keep the camera on this. I'm specifically looking at this area right here. I'm assuming this is the main entrance for handicap, because this is handicap. And they're gonna come in through this door, correct?
Correct.
Vanessa? And the cars are gonna stack this way. Okay, this is my question. So, based on the existing one that's similar to this property, meaning it's not directly on Indian Ripple like the one by Lowe's and 675 is not directly on North Fairfield. They're kind of off. Have you any lessons learned that you picked up on stacking? Because stacking is where we have a lot of issues when someone with a business establishment comes before this planning commission. We start talking about backup of stacking and how far can it go and what can it disrupt. Have you any lessons learned you picked up from that location on 675 in North Fairfield that's off the main entry, similar to this one, that have been applied to why you chose the stacking layout that you did? Or is this just independent of whatever's going on at the one at 675 in North Fairfield?
Yeah, can you answer that?
Yeah, I'd say this is independent. We look at these scenarios on a case by case, with our site layouts. I think, and we kind of talked to it a little bit earlier, is that third window, and then, so that keeps the drive-through moving so that cars can continue to move through the drive-through. There's also two, I think they're in the front there next to the handicap stalls. I think note 11 is our drive-through pull forward. So cars can also be asked to pull forward into those parking stalls to keep that drive-through moving. So as far as the concern of stacking beyond the front corner of our building, which I think is your concern, with that kind of avenue of moving customers into either parking stalls or through the window, should not be a concern. With these new layouts and our new, dedicated parking stalls that we utilize for drive-through customers, we've seen a lot of benefit in that.
Well, Mr. Wisniewski, that makes me even more concerned, because in the end, stacking and handicap parking are not always in symbiotic relationship. I'm going to go up again and show you, because we don't have a pointer here. As I'm understanding what you said, if you have to pull up, you're pulling up these spots here or these spots here?
The ones in the top.
The ones in the top, these two spaces, which means if I'm a handicap, wheelchair, or whatever, and I'm trying to go here, I could be interfering with traffic coming in here, or obviously traffic at hot meal times like lunch and breakfast, backing up into how I'm trying to get into the building. Has that been taken into consideration in where you place the handicap? Because Burger King had a different layout, and so when I was out at the site, I've noticed this is the issue, and it's a stacking issue, especially with that third window.
Sure. It could be considered, and I think, per ADA code, that crosswalk needs to be to the closest point entry
Yeah.
of the building. I think that's probably why we did not put it, on the non-drive-through side. If that's a solution,
So you don't anticipate the mealtime traffic where the breakfast and lunch, specifically breakfast, where the stacking is going to go past where you've drawn it and even start to approach or encroach into possibly the handicap entrance area?
Yeah, I don't foresee it I don't foresee our cars stacking
Because
beyond
I
the
have
front
seen
door.
that at the one at North Fairfield and 675 at breakfast on the way to the base in the morning, and how much they stack around that building, because it's a very successful McDonald's.
Sure.
And I can see the same thing here. Which makes me wonder, is there any way of looking at stacking that is in a different configuration that you might have looked at based on North Fairfield, but apparently not, right?
Yeah, I think, we're kind of limited by the dimensions of the site to, either add a lane, and maintain that bypass lane around the building.
All right, well, that pretty much tells me what I was looking for lessons learned and how it applies, because in the end, there could be an impact to the handicap parking there, and people trying to get out, especially if they're wheelchair bound. One last question, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm gonna go up again and point, this has to do with the sign that Colin Carville talked about. I'm assuming you're keeping your 6-foot-high sign to go here and not here?
Yeah,
Right
my
behind you.
sign is, it's going in right below the trash enclosure, right where you're pointing, there's a little kind of rectangular box, yeah.
That's good, because this, and we can't talk about traffic here, I've been there early in the morning coming from the Apple Store and a few other things. Traffic hightails goes down this road, pretty good clip. And if I'm just leaving McDonald's and I'm making a left turn to exit, I can't see it if there's a sign here or here because of the slope of that road. And I just wondered if you had looked at your sign placement based upon people trying to leave the McDonald's in the morning.
Correct, yeah. So our sign, as she had stated, is placed right there in the southwest,
Southeast corner?
southeast corner.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, closer to BP.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
that pylon sign for the center is existing and will remain.
All right. Thank you, both of you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just to build on what Jim was discussing, I think if your stack starts to overflow outside of your property, that in the upper left-hand corner, that is an entrance onto the site. You could simply put an arrow pointing towards the beginning of the stack line and let cars back up into the adjacent parking lot rather than out onto the driveway, because you have that option. You don't on the North Fairfield store.
Correct.
So
Yeah, North Fairfield is
that
one with
that
the
just
long
might be
traffic.
a suggestion to, in case you do get a long line there, people won't start to wrap around the building.
Sure, some
Just
sort of
a thought.
pavement marking or so. Yeah.
But what I would like to add is that that's a very attractive building. And y'all did your homework. You know what our hot buttons are, and you got them all. So nice job. It's a very attractive building, and I'm glad there's not a playground part of it. Y'all tried that before, and it didn't fly. Okay, that's all I've got. So, folks, I need a motion unless there's second helpings here.
Yeah, I just had one for Colin. Oh, sorry. I know we talked a lot about stacking. Didn't the city pass a stacking resolution or ordinance or something?
It's in our code, yes.
Th-
Yeah,
that's what I
and
thought.
it would
And so
meet that.
basically, if there was a problem, they would have to fix it. Anyway,
Correct,
right?
yes.
Okay.
That's on the public streets.
Okay.
True.
That only applies to public.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which reminded me of something.
Yep.
We're good on the. Sorry, we're good on the pervious surface
Yes, correct.
percentage. Okay, and this is essentially the specific site plan. What we're looking at is in fact a specific site plan.
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure we were clear on that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any second helpings, folks? Okay, I need a motion. Don't be shy.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve PUD 541 major modification to the site plan. I believe that's correctly what we're doing, is approving the modification to the site plan, correct? With the 20 conditions. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor,
District Triad, second.
and we have a second. So we'll read the roll on this. Sorry, we have a motion and a second, so we'll read the roll on this.
Ms. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mr. Fountain,
I approve.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Self?
Motion carries 4-0, and we're looking forward to seeing another, presuming, of course, the city council passes this, we're looking forward to seeing another McDonald's in Beavercreek.
Breakfast is big,
And-
remember that.
Folks, we are fresh out of agenda items, so I'll entertain a motion for adjournment unless there's something else from staff.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I move to adjourn.
I second.
I have a motion and a second, and we'll do that by acclamation. See you.